Now, meta programs is something that we use in order to make decision. It's like it's our strategy that we use it in order to make decision. Yeah, it's an internal dialogue that we represent in some way. You can also consider that meta programs as more like something that drives us, something that motivates us to do something, something that we use it in order to process the information. Yeah, or it's also an internal representation of the system, which is like, you know, kind of directing you towards making decisions or creating that behavior for yourself. And the thing about meta programs is that when we know our internal strategy, when we know our what drives us internally, we can change that state, we can change that behavior, we can even change and open up the choices without labeling a person. I mean, some of the meta programs are like whether we operate from towards or away from. So this is not about labeling people that this is what you are and you stay like that for the rest of your life. It's about helping them to be aware of it in the first place, and then helping them to, you know, change it. That internal dialogue, that internal motivation that helps us get through our communication, through our life, our decision making. You can also call meta program as patterns of behavior or preferences of behavior, what you choose to behave in a particular situation, or they are like your traits. They are traits in that you use it in different situations, or that types or dominant style of functioning and motivating yourself. These are called meta programs. Now just look at page number 34. Now these meta programs can change in a context, but we can always have like more appealing trait or a dominant style of internal motivation that we all experience and practice. Now the first program that we can talk about is towards and away. Now what this towards and away is this your internal drive? Is towards something, achieving something, or away from something? So is it towards pain, or is it towards pleasure? Or is it away from pain and towards pleasure? It could be any way of functioning, any way of internal motivation. Now, for example, there are clients who come to me for quit smoking, and if I ask the first question that why you want to stop smoking, and there could be many reasons, and one of the reasons could be want a better health. Yeah, you want to be free of this habit that is controlling their life. So it immediately tells me that their drive, their motivation to change is towards something, towards a pleasure of being free of that particular habit. And if I know that this particular, if they tell me that they want to quit smoking because they want to get away from the bad breath, they don't want to be now going away in a social gathering because they are the only one left in that group who are smoking, and they don't want to be now really look odd in that particular group. I can understand that they are going away from the pain of having that habit in their life. Now in many ways the better strategy would always be towards something, and I can help them change that state from getting away from that pain to the pleasure of what they are going to get from when they quit smoking. So you can always help them to shift their motivation, internal motivation, from pain to pleasure. This is one strategy that people really deploy in decision making. I have a friend who is a photographer, and a very good well-known photographer in our area. He was also appointed by by the local forest department to picture, or when they're making some kind of documentary. Very well known. He's done a lot of projects and he's always on the move, and he has a studio where he works. He had developed it out of his hobby, and he's also done a lot of freelancing project for a lot of companies to study flora and fauna in that local area. And very, very nice, gentle person that I've really known him for some time now. And one evening, he was coming back from the forest area, and he met with an accident. The accident, really fatal accident, really fatal accident, and he injured himself really badly. His car toppled so many times, it tumbled down so many times, and by the time it came to a stop, it had really done a lot of damage to the car and to my friend. And they fortunately, I mean, the area that he met with an accident, fortunately there was one particular house, because it's a jungle area, there is nothing around it. There was one house, and somehow that house that the couple lived in, they somehow knew him, because he used to travel a lot around that area and all that. For some reason he ended up having stopped, his car stopped just right there, just before the house, and they immediately rushed there, but they really couldn't help him. They called the emergency services, so everything really followed, and they took him to the nearest town where he lived in. Unfortunately, the doctor said that they can't do anything about it because the injuries were so severe. He had fracture in many parts of his body, including his spine, and he was totally paralyzed from the neck down. Totally paralyzed. He could not even move his face muscles. He could only move his eyes. It was really bad. Like when I heard about it, it was a shock to me. And he was airlifted to Mumbai, where he was given the treatment. And the doctor were also not very hopeful of his condition. And they told him that they told the family members, in fact, that if he really comes out of it, it will be a miracle. It will totally be a miracle. And when I came to know about it, it was a shock. It was really a shock that how can a person who could be traveling anywhere is now, bound to a bed in his home, and kind of no future at all, Then I didn't have a chance to meet him that immediately. I met him after some time, though I kept, knowing about what he's doing from his family and all that. And I met him, I could only meet him only after a year. And when I met him, I saw him in the wheelchair, the first time when I saw him in wheelchair. And even seeing him in that wheelchair was a kind of experience for me, in the sense that I could at least see him in that position. And when I spoke to him, it was all but nothing that what he really wanted to do with his health. All he talked about the entire time when I met him, all he talked about what he wanted to do and how he made changes in his life, what he did, what challenges he faced, what disappointment he faced, but then what really drove him was to push forward each moment of time. Each and every day it was like a challenge for him to get through each and every stage of recovery in his life, from having paralysis and no hope to any recovery, to now being able to sit in that particular wheelchair and being able to talk about it, which he could not even do it in the first few months of his accident. And the doctor were really amazed that it's a miracle. I mean, doctor knew that medically it is not possible to have that recovery. And fortunately now he even walks, though he has a limited control over his hand, but he still walks. So think about when you have that drive which is towards something that you want to do in your life, or your client may want to do in their life, then getting away from something that can totally, entirely change the internal motivation, decision making, then the behavior that follows that particular change. The next one is about internal and external. It's like about what really drives somebody, whether the drive is motivated internally or is the drive has the motivation that it takes from outside. Now in Asian cultural perspective, people are very much concerned about what other people say, what they will say it, what their close extended family will say it, and based on that it drives them. They change. Their decision making is totally based on what others say or what others do. But as a therapist, as a hypnotist, as an NLP practitioner, it is always beneficial to you, even your client, when you help them to shift that the internal motivation that will help them through their life, through the successes of life, through the happiness of their life. And that's where your role becomes very important as a hypnotist or as an NLP practitioner. Or simply just ask someone, how do they know that they have done a good job? And whether their answer, whether they said that when others told them, or whether it came from their internal dialogue that they have done a good job, will simply help you find out whether their motivation is internal or external. And you can always shift it based on the context that you want to really use it. Or that could be a global or specific. Now global and specific is more about the bigger picture, or somebody who is detail oriented. Now for example, what is the strategy of going for a holiday? Do you plan in detail, or you just decide at the destination and book the ticket and then leave it for the rest of the programs to fall in its place once you are there? Or you plan every detail of how you're going to go, how many hours you're going to spend there, buying all the tickets and everything in advance, deciding all the shows and the places you want to go there. So based on that you can understand what is their internal drive, whether they have bigger picture or they are very specific about it. Now certain jobs require being in a bigger picture, like if you are a manager, if you are a general manager or a CEO, you need to have that behavioral trait where you think on a bigger picture scale and not in details. Details are for all the people who are working under him. Somebody who is an auditor, they need to be detail oriented in order to really get through the nitty-gritty of that particular job that they are doing. The another meta program which is also very interesting is whether the internal motivation is towards matching or mismatching. Now there are jobs that require these traits. Somebody who is a teacher, they are looking for exact answers, and at the same time they are looking for answers that are wrong or has a mistake in it. So you require both at the same time. Or there are interior designers who are looking for matching, who are looking for that sync. They are looking for things that they are not matching in a particular room and then making it more uniform in its look. So if you just ask somebody simply to take out two different denominations and ask them to look for and compare it or describe it, you will know what orientation the person has. Somebody who is very critical minded, they would look more for mismatch, what's not matching there, yeah? or what's missing there. Like there was this experiment that they did. It's a very funny experiment they did in somewhere, and they kept a painting with the colors under it, and they just wrote a sentence there that if you think that this painting is not good enough or it has some issue, just use this paint and make it better. So towards the end of the day, that painting was no more that painting anymore. It had completely changed, because the suggestion was to look for a mismatch, and people started looking for something that was odd in that painting altogether, and by the end of the day that painting was no more that particular painting. So it's all about what you're looking at, what's your internal dialogue, what are your traits that you generally deploy in order to make a decision or use it as a drive to do something. Now just go through page 13, and there are some exercise, there are some questions that you can do it in pairs, and you'll be able to understand the internal dialogue that the meta programs, the dominance and the traits that the person has, and it's quite interesting. Have fun.